Hi guys, welcome back to 20 Questions With, and today's guest is a McLaren development driver, Katie Milner. Thank you for joining me, Katie.
No worries.
Have you all right? Busy weekend?
Yeah, so just been racing at SNET this weekend. So we had 2 1-hour races this weekend instead of the normal 2 hour. So it's a bit more manic than usual, and we had Friday testing on top of that. Yeah, we came away with 2 finishes. So yeah, good weekend.
Good weekend. That's what we like to hear anyway. But are you ready for the quick fire round?
Yeah, go for it.
Hopefully not as scary as the racing. So let's get going. So what is your favourite car?
The McLaren P1.
And your favourite track?
Alton Park.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Good. Everyone said dogs so far, so I'm quite happy. Oh,
Definitely dogs.
Oh, I love that question because everyone seems to have a dog with them, and then all of a sudden they come
Really?
on camera. It's great. Oh, bless. And if you were to go to a restaurant, what would be your favourite 3-course meal?
The starter, halloumi fries. Main would be carbonara. And pudding, I reckon sticky toffee pudding.
Ooh, good choices. And who is your most inspirational driver?
My dad.
Oh, any reason in particular?
I think just growing up alongside him, watching what he was doing, and yeah, literally just brought in from such a young age, and he's more a rallying route. So for me, it's been quite different because obviously I've gone circuit racing, so it's been good to get like advice from him, and he's always like supported me. So yeah, I think just literally like living with him as well, you kind of see motorsport from every single angle, and you know, they've sometimes struggled with money, and kind of realizing how much strain it can, like just wanting to do the sport can kind of put on you and your family. But then also, you know, the reward of doing all that and winning a championship. I think just being around the whole environment, really.
Oh, fantastic. And if you were to choose another sport apart from motorsport, what would it be?
God, I don't know. I think it would have to be like a team sport. Maybe something like, I don't know, hockey.
It's a hard one, isn't it? When that's all you know, you're like, oh God, what would I enjoy? And are you a morning or evening person?
Evening.
And your favourite hobby apart from anything car related?
God, I don't think I've got one. Don't know really. It's just always racing. Another hobby. I don't know. Just it's like going out for like food and stuff. A hobby. Like
Food's definitely a good enough hobby. A lot of enjoyment with food.
Yeah.
And what is the scariest thing you've ever done?
God, living with my boyfriend probably.
It's these men, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Quite unique.
I like it. Okay, so that's the end of the quickfire round. You survived. So we're going to go into the little bit more in-depth questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. So number 11, how did you actually get into motorsport? So you mentioned your dad a little bit, so.
Yeah, so I grew up watching him. He became British Rally Champion in 2002 and 2003, so I was literally 2 and 3 years old then. So yeah, literally it's in my blood. I've, you know, grown up watching it, and then kind of the age of 12, I said, you know, I want to have a go myself. So started in autograss, which is kind of a dirt oval racing, literally 4 lap sprint races with 8 cars, and you heats and finals, so kind of a bit like karting, obviously on dirt and in cars. And then really my plan was to go to rallycross and go rallying like my dad did. But at the time when I was a junior, so kind of 14 years old, the grid of junior rallycross, there was 3 cars, whereas you looked at circuit racing and, you know, there was 20 plus. So really we only went circuit racing because of the competition, and we felt like I would learn so much more racing against 20 cars than I would 3. And I was kind of hooked from there really, and so did JSCC for 2 years, became the first girl to win the championship in the second year in 2016, then moved to Ginetta GT5 because we kind of sat down after juniors and thought, right, well, what's the next step, where I want to be after GT5, and that was GT racing. So we went to GT5 to learn rear wheel drive. No kind of driver race. It was all your input. It was a very competitive championship. You were on slicks and wets, so there was that call to be made as well. And, you know, if you got caught out, which we did at Knockhill, one race, but it was something like a 25 lap race, and on lap 3 the heavens opened, the whole grid was on slicks, and, you know, that at that point it's just a survival race. So
like on ice.
It was literally learning to drive in that condition on slicks. So that was a huge learning experience driving that, and then got picked up by McLaren. So yeah, been with McLaren for the last 2 years.
Oh wow, and you're enjoying it?
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, we didn't actually get to compete last year, just due to COVID and everything. So yeah, it's been amazing to be, you know, kept on for the second year, and yeah, be competing and have all that backing behind us.
Yeah. And obviously over the years, I know you touched on finances, but what different barriers do you think you've experienced, and how did you actually overcome them?
There's been quite a few. I think, you know, well, my parents own just a normal, you know, kind of car MOT service garage. So my dad kind of, until I was with McLaren, used to run my car. So that was a massive cost, that we didn't have to pay a team to look after the car, to mechanic the car, to, you know, we had our own truck, so we had our own awning, and kind of everything was very internal. So that saved us a lot of money, but obviously it was still expensive. My first year I managed to secure a huge sponsor in GT5, which they funded pretty much most of the season, which was amazing. And then kind of the last 2 years where I was funding GT5, I just had personal kind of more smaller sponsors, which have then been carried through and helped me with, you know, still today support me with McLaren. So yeah, it was difficult. You know, we didn't do as much testing as we would like to do because of the money, but it's one of those things. And I think almost not being able to be out testing every week, you know, when you're actually in the car, you're 100% there. Whereas if you're in it every week, you know, I'm not saying it's boring, but, you know, it's just that thing all the time, and you probably won't learn as much if you're doing it as often.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been a few struggles, but you know, looking back, I'm glad that we've done everything that we've been able to do.
Oh, brilliant. And obviously over the years, what sort of changes do you think there has been towards women in the sport as such?
I think there's been a big push in the last kind of 3-4 years. I mean, well, first of all, there was Susie Wolf's Dare to Be Different that's set up.
Yeah.
There's always kind of been clubs like BWRDC that have been set up to kind of help support women, but I think what Dare to Be Different tried to do was get the younger generation and, you know, people that were kind of still in school, you know, to try out karting and not just to be a driver, to, you know, have a career in engineering or become a mechanic, or, you know, there's so many careers within the sport. And I think it was just to open younger girls' eyes to what, you know, you don't just have to be a racing driver, you can do other things in the sport. So I think that was really helpful for kind of the whole, you know, not just being a driver, you know, kind of getting more women into the whole sport in different areas. Obviously W Series started up, which was, you know, amazing. Who wouldn't want to go and race an F3 car for free, and at the end of it win a load of money? You know, it's great, and you know, you get to travel the world. Now they're on the F1 calendar, so you know, that's pretty cool to be around that atmosphere and in that paddock. And now Formula One, so you know, the series is taking off the women that will probably want to go to Formula One. That's never really been a kind of a target for me. I've always wanted to kind of stay with the sports cars, and go GT racing. So I think Formula One is great for women that maybe can't afford to do it, and you know, want to make that step into GT racing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how the assessments go, and then how the racing goes next year.
Definitely. And that leads quite nicely on to the next question. So obviously you're going to be one of the Formula Women instructors. What made you decide to sort of team up with Formula Women and become one of the instructors?
I just think it's a great kind of idea. You know, like we were just talking about, you know, a lot of drivers struggle with budget, so to be able to have the opportunity to, you know, like me this year, I wouldn't be where I am without McLaren racing in British GT. And I think, you know, Formula Women is exactly the same. You know, the women that are going to be competing for the drive next year probably wouldn't be able to do it next year without the opportunity. And I think it's going to be great for even the assessment days, just for everyone to be around each other and be in that environment, and you know, everyone supporting each other and making new connections, and you never know where they can lead. And you know, a strong saying in motorsport is, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Definitely.
And yeah, I just think it's great what they're doing, and hopefully, you know, it'll inspire a lot more people, a lot more women to come into the sport, not just to drive, but you know, to do other things as well.
Definitely. I mean, Formula One already is opening so many doors for so many women, so it's going to be amazing to see how it kind of keeps snowballing as such. Yeah, definitely. I think even, you know, obviously there's only going to be one or maybe two winners, I'm not sure, but you know, if everyone can be there and make them connections, you never know where they could lead in the next 5 years. You know, there might be a team there and they'll remember you, and in 3 years' time they might say, oh yeah, I remember her, she could drive for us this year. You know, it's just, you know, being there at the right time, and you know, just waiting for those opportunities more than just winning the competition.
Yeah, exactly.
And being a female in the motorsport community, have you had any sort of kind of extra positive effects from being female, or any sort of negative effects that you've had from being a female within the sport?
I mean, I don't really like to kind of push the whole female in motorsport thing too much. I think, you know, at the end of the day, you're all labelled as racing drivers, whether, you know, you're a man or a woman. But it's definitely a push for sponsors. I mean, my two sponsors this year, my personal ones, their main reason for being with me is because I'm that bit different, and they've kind of like that diversity in the sport. So it's a good push and a good angle for the sponsors, I think. It's a big positive, and obviously, you know, women that struggle to get budget, that might just be their extra little push that might help them. Yeah, it's not really come across any kind of negative comments too much, you know, compared to other drivers in the paddock. In junior racing, it was a little bit, you kind of had to gain respect, I think. So when I first started racing, circuit racing, I was kind of pushed off and, you know, spun a little bit, and kind of, they didn't really talk to me in the paddock, but that's fine. Like that is how I go about racing anyway. Like, I'm just totally focused on what I'm doing. I don't really care about other drivers and, you know, like making friendships with them. Obviously, you know, you're all out there to do a job on the track. Kind of like, you know, let the talking be done on the track. So yeah, I think once I kind of gained respect in junior racing, and people, you know, the other drivers went, okay, you know, she's all right, like she can race, and then they start and respect you, and then that's, you know, when I started winning races, and then they all wanted to be my friend. So yeah, I think it's a big thing where females do have to gain respect of other people, you know, to show how good you actually are.
Almost prove yourself as such.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a very heavy male sport, but I think within the next kind of 5 years, 10 years time, we're going to start to see women going into F1, I think. And obviously that is kind of seen from a lot of people that aren't within motorsport, that is kind of seen as the very top. And I think if people saw women going into that, then, you know, the base, you know, the grassroots would start to change. And I think they are starting to change now. I mean, when I was in autograss, you used to have a men and a ladies championship.
Yeah.
And in some classes, the ladies was actually stronger than the men's. And in autograss as well, you would have, your dad would race, your mum would race, and you know, the kid would race in the juniors. So that was a real family sport. And I think if more people came from that and tried to climb the ladder like I've done, I used to race against Senna Proctor, who's now in touring cars. I think if more people can progress from that, you know, I think it would definitely start and change.
Definitely. And kind of going on for that, for yourself, what are your aspirations now with motorsport? Obviously, continuing with the GT, but is there any sort of development in that you're looking to achieve, really?
So at the moment, I just, you know, want to keep giving 100% with McLaren. You know, hopefully stay on with them for a lot more years. That would be amazing. I would love to stick with GT racing. I think it's a great team sport, and a lot of the time it's down to strategy and your teammate. And, you know, I've speaking to Rob Bell last weekend, actually, who just done the Spa 24 hour, and asking him about, you know, the race and everything, and saying, you know, obviously they have to sleep during the 24 hour. And I was like, can you ever switch off? And he said a really good comment. He said, you know, when you're stood in the garage and your teammate's out there, there is nothing you can do to affect what's happening out there. So you have to be able to switch off, and you have to be able to stand back in the garage and think, there's nothing I can do right now, which is, you know, what happened at Donington to us earlier in the year. Harry got taken out in the first stint, so I didn't even get in the car. And at that point, there's no point in kicking off, because I was in the garage, there's nothing I could do about it. There was really nothing Harry could do about it. You know, it wasn't his fault. So yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, so I think I'd love to kind of continue climbing the ladder with McLaren. My main goal has always been to race at Le Mans, and I think there's a lot of records out there to be broken by a female driver.
Definitely.
I think the highest placed female at Le Mans is 4th. So, you know, to become the first female to win Le Mans, I think that would be
very special.
Amazing. Yeah. So that is kind of the target, you know, kind of way in the distance at the moment. But yeah, I think to kind of progress from GT4 to GT3 and keep going up would be amazing, and, you know, to stay with McLaren if I can.
So it leads on quite nicely. So why did you actually choose to race with McLaren, and in the British GT, what actually appealed to you for that specific sort of side of racing?
I think just for starters, the program that you know we're on now, it's the best program to be on in GT racing. You know, it's fully funded, fully supported by McLaren. You look at other manufacturers who, you know, give a certain amount of money towards your season, but you've still got to, you know, do that bit extra. And I think what McLaren have given us the last 2 years has just been incredible. We've had, you know, support with training. We have, you know, so much access to simulators, to fitness people. We did a couple of tests pre-season. They've given us, you know, the whole year in British GT. They've given us driver coaches, you know, engineers. You know, there's just been so much kind of behind the scenes to get us to where we are now that it's just been incredible. And you know, I think just McLaren as a brand, they're so, you know, kind of prestigious, and you know, to look at them, you just kind of take a step back. You know, like even us for now on the program this year, we still go to the factory and, you know, pinch ourselves to think where we are, and you know, just how much history is behind the brand. Yeah, it's just incredible. And yeah, like I say, if I can just stick with what we're doing, hopefully the next few years will lead to even bigger things.
That's exciting. And sort of looking back into the past, what's actually been the one memory that you really stands out for you, is that's my favourite memory I've had throughout my time in motorsport?
I think it was, so when I won the junior championship, the JSCC, so the last race was at Silverstone.
Oh wow.
So it was on the international circuit, and qualifying was wet, and it was literally this was the last round, so all the rounds leading up, every single race, every single quali was dry.
Yeah.
And so the wet caught me out in qualifying, and I think I started something like 10th, and basically had to beat one person in that race to win the championship. And so I went into this race, it was dry, so I thought, right, you know, I know how to drive in the dry, you know, I've got this kind of thing. But at that point I thought, you know, the most important thing to do is enjoy it, you know, not to get stressed out with thinking I need to beat this person. So I got on the grid, hardly any nerves, you know, I just thought I'm going to go out and enjoy it. And slowly, one by one, I picked people off, and I think it was about 3 laps from the end, I overtook the person that I needed to.
Oh wow.
I just had my head down, focused ahead, just kept pulling a gap on this guy. At that point I was in 3rd.
Yeah.
And on the last lap, going into the last 2 corners, so can't think what the corners are called now, the kind of left right onto the international straight. So going into that left-hander, the 2 cars in front of me, first and second, both outbrake themselves and went straight on, and I nipped up the inside and won the race and won the championship.
Wow.
And like looking back now, I just think how much I enjoyed that race, and how, you know, I just kind of carved through the field. It was amazing. And yeah, there's literally no feeling like winning a championship. It's just incredible, and I always remember that race so well.
You could always make a movie out of that race by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I remember all my family used to come watch me. And my hairdresser at the time, who I used to call my Auntie Jen.
Yeah.
She was stood on top of the wing watching, and she got that excited, jumping up and down, that she weed herself. And that is like one of the things that I always remember, her like them watching me and jumping up and down, and then hearing that she'd done that after the race. It was just so funny. But yeah, I always remember that race and just think, you know, every time I just need to enjoy myself, because if you get to a point where you're not enjoying it, you may as well stop doing it. And that's,
it shows as well, doesn't it? Like you see when someone's not enjoying something so clearly because they don't perform as well.
Yeah, and I think that's been a big thing in GT racing, because the McLaren is, you know, is strong at some tracks and not others, and other manufacturers are strong at those tracks. And it's been able to, you know, if you've given 100% and you think the car's given 100% and you finish 5th,
yeah,
you know, you've got to be happy with that, and you've got to come away thinking we've done everything that we can do. Whereas, and then at those tracks that you are stronger at, you know, that's when the rewards do come and the podiums are there. And I think that's a big thing, that as long as you feel like you've given 100% all weekend and the team have given 100% and, you know, nothing's gone wrong in the car, you know, you've got to come away and be happy with that, you know, even if you finish last, you know, it's so difficult. And, you know, the BOP is changing all the time. You know, other manufacturers get, you know, more boost for one race, or, you know, we get more weight in for one race, and it's just constantly up and down. And I think that's a big thing to learn with GTs, that as long as, you know, you've given everything that you can, you've got to be happy with the result.
Definitely. Like I say, if you physically know you can't have done anything more, you can't be mad at yourself. You can't be there saying, oh, what if I just did this? If you've possibly done everything, then you've got to be happy with the result and be yourself for it. Like you say, if you can't do any more, there's no point in getting mad over it. You just got to enjoy the experience. Okay, so on to the next question. So obviously you do a bit of instructing. So what would you say are the main 3 skills it takes for track driving, so circuit driving?
Do you mean like from someone who's never really driven on a circuit before, or
kind of in the middle? So someone with a bit of experience but not too much. There's kind of, whether it's vision or sort of, I think some of the answers we've had is like dedication, some have been like vision and car control. So wherever you fancy, but that you think are the top 3 most important things to make it in track driving.
I think I've done a few scholarships for junior drivers.
Yeah.
And the main kind of things they look for in a driver is someone who can listen and can adapt. So if say you have, I don't know, 5 sessions during the day, and session 1 your feedback is you need to brake later, in session 2 you should then be able to brake later, and then you get told from that one that, right, you need to be now more aggressive with the steering wheel, so then you're expected to do that in session 3. And I think it's just that is really important, to be shown progression, and not just kind of go out there every time and think, I'm Lewis Hamilton, I know what I'm doing. That's, you know, that's what I've seen with a lot of kids, you know, and especially, you know, being a woman instructor, they think, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and then they just think they know better. Definitely, you know, progression and ability to learn. I think that's definitely 2 areas that a lot of people will be looking for. The driving itself, I think, you know, like you say, vision is really important. Even I still work on it today, to be able to, you know, almost look where you're not going. And that's kind of what separates, you know, the good drivers from the great drivers. Which can be, you know, learnt on the sim a lot of the time, which is what we do all year round pretty much. What else?
I was gonna say, we can count that as 3 if it's easier.
I think so. I think ability to learn, progression, and vision.
That counts as 3. And we're on to the final question now, so you're nearly there. So question number 20. So for women out there, or even men that are wanting to make it as a racing driver who haven't started already, what's your best advice for them?
I think just, you know, kind of don't be afraid. You know, if you dive into a race, your first ever race, enjoy it. Don't, you know, if you finish last, you finish last. It is what it is, and you just got to remember that every time you go out in the car, you're going to be improving. And even if you start off at very grassroots, you know, try and think where you want to be in 5 years' time. And, you know, have that as a focus the whole time. You know, when I moved into GT5, I was always looking at British GT. And I think, you know, having that target really helped me. So I think just always enjoy it. You know, always try and give 100%. Even if you feel, you know, if you never win a race, don't worry about it. You know, just always, if you feel like you're progressing every time, you know, one, you know, first race you might finish last, the next race you might finish second to last, but you've improved. So a lot of the time, you know, when you start out, you make big steps, and then kind of a year later, it's all about those little steps.
Yeah.
You know, your first round, you could be 5 seconds off the pace. The next round, you could be 2 seconds off. The next round, you could be 1 second off. And then that 1 second gap is the hardest gap, because you're looking at tenths. So yeah, just enjoy it. Always be progressing.
Yeah.
And have a goal.
Definitely keep that goal in mind constantly.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, that's the end of the 20 questions. You survived. You made it.
Oh.
So I hope it wasn't too scary and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice to go through different questions. A lot of media questions are normally the same and quite boring. So.
Same old. You don't often get asked what your favourite food is.
No, that was different. And about the dog.
Well, that was, no offence, but I think, is it he or she?
She.
I think she was the best guess. I'm sorry.
No offence taken.
But thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So guys, as you know, we're here every Monday at 6 p.m. with a different guest. So you guys know the drill. To make my journey your journey, like, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.